I don't know how it happens. I lose 8, gain 10 when I do that.
Muscle. Muscle is heavier, Chad.
It's not what my
Awesome. All right, so recording has resumed. Associate Superintendent Ron Eberts for the enrollment summary report, please.
Thank you. You hope you had a chance to look at it. One little anecdote, you may remember last month I said I couldn't guarantee it, but I had a prediction or a hypothesis that we might crack that 11,000 students before the end of the year. And if you look at our bottom line, we were at 11,006 students for the month of May. So I'm very pleased that that prediction came true. So I will leave that for you for information.
Thank you so very much. Are there any questions? We don't have to do the motion anymore.
I know we don't. I can't resist. I'm sorry, I can't.
It's all good. Trustee Manning, go ahead.
There may be 1 or 2 other trustees around the table who remember when we cracked 10,000.
10,000 was huge.
Yes. And what did Mr. Bieber do?
Yes.
Quit.
No. No, he brought out some sparkling cider and we toasted our 10,000 students.
I didn't know that. This is a dream.
Yeah, well, you still have time to run out and get
over
that.
11,000.
Yeah, we already were, and then COVID and.
You can still run out and get that. There's still
Anyway,
time.
I want to thank you. Just thank you.
We'd settle for some fans in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so very
I
much.
didn't want to make a motion. I didn't do.
I know. I that's why I thought that's what you were doing. I was like, we don't have to do that.
I know.
Say it in your head.
Thank you so very much. 10.2, 2023-24 calendar review, Associate Superintendent Della Rustin.
Thank you. Each year we develop a calendar working about 2 years ahead. Used to do it more, but we found there were too many changes, too many unknown things, so now we are currently approving the 2023-2024 calendar. And we develop it with a group of administrators, a committee at all the different levels, because there's so many different considerations with such a diverse range of educational programming and scheduling needs. So what we do is we send it out for feedback. So we look at feedback from school councils, staff, and other individuals. And of the 36 respondents this year who replied for this calendar, 32 at the time were in favor of the proposed calendar and 3 were opposed. But it doesn't mention in the memo that we did make one change so that we would assume that really there were only 2 that were opposed. And the 2 no's were just, one was wanting to move up Professional Development Day. The other one was wanting to align with Red Deer Catholic, which we did attempt to do a few years ago with our calendars, but they made it quite difficult because they would change. We did try and align those things for a lot of good reasons, but it just didn't work because then they would make a change. We were no longer aligned. So we just decided we should do what worked better for our division, which is what we've done. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about any of the highlights of the calendar, which are mentioned in the memo.
Thank you so very much, Diane.
Was there any feedback, good or bad, around the Easter and spring break this year? Since Easter was so much later, I remember a time where we always had spring break at the end of March to try to line up with what you said we were always trying to line up with. Was there any feedback saying it was too long or it was great?
Yeah, actually, that really quite surprised me because I would have thought that it would be a very late break for people because we used to have spring break, but it was overwhelmingly positive towards having that later break.
Really?
Because they felt that that was when people really needed it, and because we had that winter break in February that aligns with Teachers Convention, people were really happy for that, and they felt that the timing of that Easter break was better than a spring break, which oftentimes was very early, and then in those cases they thought it was too early. So I have been doing this calendar. This is probably my 8th year of doing calendars, and that was definitely the feedback, which did surprise me as well.
Okay, thanks for
They
sharing.
like that later break.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else? Thank you. 10.3, third quarter financial statements. Colin Kearney.
Excuse me one minute, Chair. If I could just comment on, some of the board meeting dates on the calendar were at a little bit askew. Are we going to address those now or in?
The organization.
This is the 23-24 calendar.
Right, but there were some that still were not.
Yeah.
That's next year's, this is this
Yeah,
year's.
But it's still not right?
In the organizational meeting.
Sorry.
No worries. No, good question. Colin?
Provided the financial statement for the third quarter ending May 31st. The revenue, I guess, is in line with what we had projected. We've made adjustments for enrollment that was less than what we had anticipated, so that's now in line with that. And then, of course, all expenditures that were planned appear to be kind of in line this year with what we had budgeted for. So we're definitely going towards that projected deficit of $4 million, that's for sure. I've noted that mostly a lot of that has to do with our staffing costs due to illness. We mentioned that in the second quarter, and it's continuing that absences are definitely a high cost item for us that wasn't necessarily budgeted, but we did have some savings in other areas, so it's kind of offsetting each other. So it appears that we should be in line with what was budgeted. Since the last update we have, I guess we've always known since the budget, I guess, was announced, was the curriculum funding, and because the government year runs different than ours from the April 1st to March, so we've actually, they've indicated that they're going to be funding us for the curriculum funding, and so we've received one pocket of funds and still waiting to find out the other portion of money that we're getting, so I guess we can start spending some of that money now and then continue to spend it in the fall. And then as well, we received safe indoor air quality for safe schools funding. That was, we have received that, and that's $200,129. So there's some, not necessarily parameters on that, but just really would wish we spend the funds on. Of course, we had already done some of the work ahead of time with some of the filters that we put in all of the schools and the infirmaries and stuff. So that money will be made good use of. And so, yeah, well, I guess we'll see how the, I guess this is the last update until November, so I guess we'll see from my projections how close I am. Fingers crossed.
Thank you so very much. Any questions? No? Okay. 10.4, Hunting Hills Category 3 Field Study Request. This is Deputy Superintendent Dan Lauer.
Thank you very much. You all have the extensive packages that the schools submit to us in regards to their application to undertake field trips. I'm just going to provide you with some highlights on some things, important things I would like you to know about this trip. So first of all, Hunting Hills is a Category 3 trip, a 12-day field study to France from April 2nd to the 14th, which will miss 3 days of school in our operational calendar. The main chaperone and organizer is Dania Hill, who is the French as a second language teacher at Hunting Hills High School, and other chaperones will be named after that. Right now, the approximate cost of the trip that they're looking at is $3,900. They're hoping to take 25 to 40 students. Again, then with a corresponding number of chaperones as per Admin Procedure 260, which outlines one chaperone for every 15 grade to 9-12 students when you're further than 25 kilometers away from Red Deer. This trip is open to grade 9 to 12 students taking French as a second language courses at Hunting Hills and is co-curricular in nature. The trip is intended to immerse students in French language. It's an extension of the French language course and also meets really specific curricular objectives. The main destinations to Paris, with trips to surrounding historically significant areas like Versailles, Juno Beach, etc. The organizer has indicated willingness to support fundraising efforts to make this trip equitable for those wishing to participate, and has also provided some really good information on safety measures they would partake in before travel. So it's recommended the superintendent of schools. It's The superintendent of schools recommends the board of trustees approve the proposed Hunting Hills High School trip to France from April 2nd to 14th.
Thank you so very much. Trustee Manning.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion, Madam Chair, that the Board of Trustees approve the proposed Hunting Hills High School field trip to France from April 2nd to 14th, 2020.
Thank you so very much. Trustee McCauley.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lauer, can you remind me on the process for a student in grade 9 to be part of a trip that is this extensive? And my question is, usually the grade 10, 11, and 12s have been in that school for a year. They hear about it. You don't know who's going to be in, well, you know mostly who's going to be in grade 9 next year. But how does that information get to the grade 8s? Or I see their first payment is until September 30th. Is that just, so it's just an information, let me figure out how it works.
You know what, and typically from my experience, 9s are not normally involved in this, in a trip like this because of that difficulty. You have to go up to their feeder middle schools and do that. But the late nature of this, they will have those students in their school, and from day one, we'll reach out to them. The other thing that, if I'm knowing Ms. Hill, what she may do is they would already have their enrollments in that gone out to the middle schools and looked at their course requests. They know in middle schools which students are taking French next year, and she'll probably reach out right to them with the package information so they can start doing it. Just waiting on approval from the board before they would go do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Peacock.
The number of supervisors figure 4 to 25 to 40 students. This is the youngest group of students too, starting with the grade 9s.
Correct.
It is the lowest ratio of supervisors. The second trip in our list has 40 to 45 students with 5 to 6 supervisors, and the third trip says will be 1 adult per 8 students, and then we have a fourth trip that was added later, so I don't have that comparison, but I think it's a fairly high ratio. How is it determined, especially with these being younger students, the ratio?
I think they simply follow the AP 260, which lists the minimum requirements,
1 to 10,
which is 1 to 15.
Oh, 1 to 15?
1 to 15 for grade 9 to 12, further than 25 kilometers from Red Deer. So the other factor in that is when we look at these different ones, and I can explain the Lindsay Thurber one later on, is the chaperone costs are borne by the students. And so part of that goes into your proposal to the travel companies and how many free ones they'll give you and things like that, right? So really they take a look at maybe the majority of the students and the availability and trying to keep that cost down. They did originally come with a higher cost than this, and we asked them to pare it down, and so that could be one of the factors that they use. But they are within our admin procedure guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Gould.
Just a couple of quick comments. I'm curious why Impressionists, not the Cubists, for example. And I think that's because they're going to Monet's house, right? So they're tying it in with the Impressionists. So I thought that was fascinating. And I'm so thrilled they're going to the Bayeux Tapestry, which is world-renowned and super important. So I'm curious about this Chateaubriand, if he's the food or some human. So they're going to that burial ground. Did they bury some steak or whatever? But okay, I love it.
Awesome, thank you.
I love France.
With regards to the motion from Trustee Manning, all those in favor? Thank you very much, that is carried. And those opposed? 10.5, Lindsay Thurber, Category 3 Field Study Request. Deputy Superintendent Dan Lauer.
Okay, so you'll note there's plural on that, so we have 2 requests of Lindsay Thurber under the same one. And so under the first one, Lindsay Thurber is proposing a Category 3 8-day field studies to France, Belgium, in the Netherlands from April 6th to 13th. There will be no school missed. The main chaperone organizers are Megan Moore, who's a French language arts teacher, and Chris Good, the principal. We're looking at an approximate cost of $3,700 and hoping to take 25 to 40 students with the corresponding number of chaperones as per AP 260. This will be open to grade 12 students only next year registered in French language arts or French as a second language in the 2022-23 school year. So I want to provide just a little historical context to help set up the next application, because it's kind of unique. They're asking you to approve a trip 2 years in advance. So historically, Lindsay Thurber has a longstanding tradition, about 38 years now, of a culminating exchange with a sister school in called Jeanne d'Arc in Mulhouse, France. And they're for students in grade 11 and 12 French immersion. This exchange always has two components. The first component is a historical one, where students visit Canadian sites from World War II, World War I, and World War II in France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Sites like Juno Beach, Vindy Ridge, the Men and Gator visited for their significance and taught to the students. During this portion, students visit the gravesite of a Red Deer High School student that was killed in battle. Students do a ceremony to honor the fallen soldier and leave a plaque to commemorate that visit. This visit and the soldiers then memorialized on a wall in honor inside Lindsay Thurber. To date, all of the Red Deer High School students killed in World War I have been visited by Thurber exchange students. In 2018, the first grave of a soldier killed in World War II was visited. The second part of that trip is a stay in Paris, and then moving on to Mulhouse, France, where you stay with a host family. The trip that we're talking about this year is limited to grade 12 students in the 2022-23 school year, as Lindsay Thurber wishes to reestablish the cycle of exchanges that I just described, where students from France come to Canada and live with Lindsay Thurber participants in the first year, and the following year, Lindsay Thurber students travel to France. These grade 12s will be unable to participate in this exchange, and the previous 10s and 11s were not, because of COVID, able to participate. So this will be the last group that won't be able to participate, and that's why it's grade 12, and they've also, to make it viable, opening up to French as a second language, not just having French language arts as being a component to this. So they will also do the portion of, however, with this group of visiting a World War II fallen soldier and continue that tradition on. They just will not do, and that's why it's only 8 days in length. They won't do the visit to Mulhouse, France, because there's no exchange component. This will just be a trip for those grade 12 students. Again, organizers will support fundraising efforts to make the trip equitable for those wishing to participate. So the Superintendent of Schools recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the proposed Lindsay Thurber Comprehensive High School trip to France, Belgium, and Netherlands from April 6th to the 13th, 2023.
Thank you so very much. Trustee Manning?
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Lauer. I would like to put the motion on the floor, Chair Buchanan, that the Board of Trustees approve the proposed Lindsay Thurber Comprehensive High School field trip to France, Belgium, and the Netherlands from April 6th to 13, 2023.
Thank you so very much. All those in favor? All those, I don't know, perfect. 3 of 4.
That's right. So I'll continue on with the second request from Lindsay Thurber. That is for an 18-day field study trip to France, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, and the Netherlands from March 24th to April 9th, 2024. There will be 8 school days missed. The main chaperone organizers are Megan Moore, French immersion, our French language arts teacher, and Chris Good, principal. The approximate cost of this trip for 18 days is $3,700, and they're hoping to take 40 to 50 students with, again, the corresponding number of chaperones as per AP 260. This trip is for students that will be in either grade 10 or 11 French immersion in the next school year, in the 2022-23 school year. You'll note that the travel date is for March 2024, where these students will then be in grade 11 and 12, and that matches up with the historical exchange students from grade 11 and 12 in French immersion when they do this. So historically, the school sought approval for this trip exchange so far in advance, as it requires students from Mulhouse to visit Red Deer and stay with host families, and that's what's being proposed in 2023. The trip will follow the traditional exchange format that I outlined earlier. Students from Mulhouse will come and stay for 8 to 10 days in the spring of 2023 with Lindsay Thurber students and their families. Those students will then travel to France in 2024, where the historical part of the trip will see 2 more fallen Red Deer soldiers honored, followed by a trip to Paris, and then on to Mulhouse, where French families will reciprocate the hospitality shown to their kids by our Canadian families. The stay in Mulhouse incorporates many cultural and linguistic activities, and because of where that town is situated in northeastern France, day trips into Germany and Switzerland also take place, and that's why you see the extra countries added in there over the other ones. So the Superintendent of Schools recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the proposed Lindsay Thurber Comprehensive High School trip to France, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, and the Netherlands from March 24th, April 9th, 2024.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Peacock,
I was going to move approval of that field trip.
thank you very much. All those in favor?
Question,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
if I may. Dan, I don't recall, and so if I am incorrect, please let me know. The last two field trips you talked to us about, the principal of that school is going to both of them. I don't recall such participation from a high school principal before. Is there, I'm trying to word my question to not get into a lot of the, fine details, because that's not my reason for asking. Is this, I guess it's just a why then? I guess I'm assuming, since I'm not a high school principal, that there would be so much on their plate that going to one, maybe, but going to two, help me understand if you can, or say, I don't know and I will get back to you.
I don't know, and I will get back to you. I can say, myself, I went on the exchange the very first time to learn how it happened, and because we had the untimely passing away of the organizer, and so we had former organizers come back and show me how to do it. It was supposed to be a one-time only thing, and then our teacher left us and knew how to do it, so I got to teach Megan more. And so I can assume that the one that Chris is going to establish that relationship with the principal, their principals actually already came over here last week, I believe, and introduced himself to Chris and saw about the school. So I'll get back to you on why. It may be simply he's helping organizing and not planning on traveling and helping on the organizing part. It was just in their application that he's an organizer.
And I'll add that it's likely due to his French language experience and being able to support that while they're over there.
And my question is more out of concern, like he's a busy man as a principal of a high school, and as we know, being a supervisor on a field trip is not a vacation.
Yeah.
So that's a lot on his plate, and so I was just curious that, I guess I'm just curious, I'm sorry I couldn't word it better.
No, that's
perfect.
fine. And like I said, it may just be he's helping organize and may not travel. I know he wouldn't mind, it would be wise for him to go on the exchange portion,
Yes,
right, and speak to Matt and stuff.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Trustee Gold, did you have your hand raised?
No.
Okay,
I was waving in the air.
perfect.
What camera?
And with regards to the motion from Vice Chair Peacock, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. And the last.
Finally, we have before us a proposal from Gateway Christian School for a 9-day field studies trip to the Dominican Republic from April 6th to the 15th. No school days we missed. Main chaperone organizers are Jim Dreacher, a Gateway teacher, and Jeanette Lehman, principal. The approximate cost they're looking at is $2,900 to $3,200. They're hoping to take 27 to 30 students with the corresponding number of chaperones. The trip is offered to grade 12 students as a culminating experience for the time at Gateway Christian School. Students earn intercultural studies credits to contribute to their high school graduation. This unique trip centered around a service learning experience and has a 9-year history of taking place. For 8 of the 9 years, the experience took place in Nicaragua, where the trip focused on helping build schools. However, political unrest necessitated a move to another receptive third world country where the service learning takes place in a different way. Gateway works with an agency called Edudeo that helped plan the last trip to the Dominican Republic, where the students and teachers, through the help of Edudeo, plan community and social enhancement projects, no longer building schools. Gateway intends on using this company again to do the same for this proposed trip. There are, you may note, some significant safety concerns around tourist travel and petty crime that Edudeo helps mitigate by providing accommodations in guarded compounds and avoiding those tourist traps areas. The crime is of a petty crime nature against tourists, pickpocketing and those types of things, and they educate the kids against that, but this Edudeo puts them in special accommodations and avoids those places. So we are confident in the safety precautions that they're taking. The superintendent of schools recommends the board of trustees approve the proposed Gateway Christian School trip to the Dominican Republic from April 6th to 15th, 2023.
Thank you very much. Trustee Mannix?
Thank you, Chair Paquette, and I would like to move approval of the trip as outlined by Deputy Superintendent Ott.
Thank you very much. Trustee Waters?
Just a statement if I can. I look at all the field trips and the opportunities that the students have and to be part of history. I just wish I could go.
Thank you very much. Trustee Gould?
I just have a couple of questions around the language, you probably won't be able to answer it, but I'm just sort of curious, they popped out when they're talking about idolatry discerners. I'm not quite sure, they talk about image bearers, idolatry discerners, so I'm not quite sure what that language is about. And then defining traditionally harmful approaches to intercultural experiences and identifying emotional and spiritual poverty is kind of a fascinating thing to stick out. And I'm not saying yea or nay, and I'm saying I'm just quite curious as to what I mean, I sort of get what the lens is, but anyway, that language I find quite fascinating. So there was no need, unless you sort of have some thoughts around it. It was, but I do like the fact that they're digging in. You know, they move to one community and they sort of stay there. They get involved in that, and I think that's kind of nice. I mean, in the other trips, they're all floating around and having, you know, learning and having important things. But this other one is kind of this. Sounds like rolling up the sleeves, the exchange, the work they're doing there. I think is kind of good. It's substantial, I think, for the kids, right?
Thank you so very much. With regards to the motion from Trustee Manning, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you very much. Yes.
Sorry, to begin, can I change my vote from the last server? I was ahead of myself on that. Can I go back and do that? I thought we were on the next one.
In Robert's rules, I think you cannot, right?
I'm not positive.
Sorry,
No, but
I was switched to
I saw
Robert's
your
rules.
reaction, I realized you'd, it's
made a
hard
mistake,
before
yeah.
the road to.
You can though, isn't it? If it's the
I'm
same
not sure.
day.
That's all I'm saying, I don't know.
If you don't mind, you can amend the minutes, you can make an amendment to something.
But to change your vote?
Doesn't change the outcome of the result.
It doesn't change the outcome.
Right.
Duly noted, you
Yeah.
said, there you go, duly noted somehow, so.
Are you okay with,
Yeah, you can just put it in the note.
okay,
Where is our parliamentarian? Huh, not here.
good? Okay.
I'm asking the hard questions.
And that motion done, okay. 10.7, Policy 21, Safe and Caring Schools, Superintendent Erickson.
Yeah, sure, I'm pleased to present you with proposed policy number 21 around safe and caring learning environments that are inclusive and respectful. It was at our board retreat as we developed our education plan back in the February, March of 2021 that our board decided to put this as a priority in the education plan for the development of this policy, along with meeting the legislative requirements. So you can see the background information there, where the board is committed to ensuring that each student enrolled in a school operated by the board and each staff member employed by the board is provided with a welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning and working environment that respects diversity and fosters a sense of belonging, free of discrimination, harassment, intimidation, bullying, and violence. The board further acknowledges its responsibility to support and assist any employee, volunteer, person providing goods and services, or student who is subjected to harassment or violence. Specifically, we heard through our public engagement this year that Reaction Digital did for us, that there was still concern around that bullying from student to student that happens across our schools, and our board is very serious about supporting and preventing those actions within our schools. Specifically, within this policy, it will be implementing a student code of conduct that addresses the bullying behaviors. It'll be a recognition and promotion of Bully Awareness and Prevention Week during the third week of November. It'll include providing professional learning opportunities that build the capacity of staff to understand and support a diverse student population, regardless of the person's actual or perceived characteristics. It will ensure that discriminatory behaviors and complaints, whether concerning students, staff, or visitors, when reported, will be taken seriously and documented. It will also provide a continuum of supports and services for all students and work collaboratively with all stakeholders to identify and implement evidence-based supports, and we've seen that in our recent three-year education plan that covers 2022, 2023 to 2024, 2025 around the development of a bully prevention and intervention plan that will come out of this policy. So it is my recommendation that the board has some options, but my recommendation is to push it out to school staff and the community for further input in September before accepting this policy and moving it forward.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Erickson. Diane, or Trustee McCauley, sorry.
I would support that recommendation, Superintendent Erickson. I'm very pleased with this, and I appreciate all the wording and time that put into establishing this, and thank you very much to everybody. And I look forward to hearing and reading what the comments, questions, and concerns will be when it gets brought back. I like that we are sending it, well, I would like that we send it back out for others to look at it, because we might have missed something, or we might have said something incorrectly, and I don't want that to happen as well, so thank you.
Vice Chair Pico.
Thank you. On page 85, number 3, the division will implement a student code of conduct further, and this is in alignment with this Education Act. The final sentence, it will be publicly visible and reviewed yearly. So what will the student code of conduct be? Will it be a policy, and how will it be reviewed?
No, it will be as part of the admin procedure, and it will be reviewed annually with our principals and vice principals within school, along with their school community. We have a number of student code of conducts that are implemented by school, but we want to have an overarching student code of conduct that is followed at the division level, so it's in alignment across our division. And it'll include a lot of education component to it, and it'll include progressive disciplinary action because we still firmly believe education is at the core of any creation of safe and caring learning environments.
Thank you.
Thank you. For this, I would need a motion because we're making a recommendation to refer.
I'm sorry, can I change my comment to a motion then?
Yes, absolutely.
So I move that this goes back.
Do you want the recommendation?
Yes, please.
That safe and care, the policy 21 be referred to principals, school staff, school councils, and the community for further input and be returned to the board for possible adoption.
I move that.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Thank you. 10.8 ASBA report, Vice Chair Peacock.
Thank you. Start by recognizing that last week our Red Deer Public's Edwin Parr nominee to our Zone 4 school boards was awarded the winner of the Edwin Parr winner for Zone 4. And she will be, I assume, as in previous years, she will be recognized in Edmonton this fall at the Alberta School Board Association annual conference. So congratulations to Tasha Sim. The ASBA's spring general meeting occurred over the weekend. We had a presentation by Dr. Robert Murray, Navigating the Political Landscape, which was, I think, a good focus for us on making sure we're building the most effective relationship with our elected officials. We had the business meeting, and the board, in particular Chair Buchanan, put forward a motion which was well supported by the room, that there be no increase to membership fees for the association. We had a presentation from Suana Michon, moving forward in a post-pandemic world, how to achieve this in unity for K-12 students, and Dr. Brian Goldman, supporting mental health resilience for K-12 students in a post-pandemic world. I move, it's a report. I'm not moving. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Something that came out of the spring general meeting was really a statement or some information that was disseminated to us regarding the ASBA and the University of Calgary starting a trustee accreditation course at the cost of $3,000. And I think it was a 10-month course of some kind, and I'm not exactly sure how it works. But there was a couple of concerns that I had about it, and number one was it was first, I never heard of it. I think it was just kind of, it was all done and then just sort of told to us that this is what was happening. The second concern I had was it was referred to as a source of revenue, and I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure who's getting, yeah, I'm just not sure. So there was a few things in my gut that just said I have some more questions about this, and I'm, and then as I sort of go down the road of should trustees be accredited, and does that give somebody who is not accredited a disadvantage in an upcoming election? I mean, I want everybody to be encouraged to run who wishes to run, no matter what their accreditation is, right? So there was just a number of questions that I had, and I'm not saying that I'm totally against it, but I just have some questions. So I'm wondering if we can address those questions through our zone, or how we should go about that. I'm not exactly sure. If there's other people who have questions about it, I have those questions, I don't know. That's just my concern. I don't know if you wanted to comment, Kathy? Or?
So yes, it may have been referenced very briefly at a zone meeting, so I didn't, because they have that learning,
The TLC.
yeah, center on their website, so I wasn't realizing they're also gonna run this program. I don't have any more information on it. Of course, the zone is now recessed until the fall. If we were looking for information, I mean, I don't think anybody from our board is gonna participate. My understanding would be you would pay your own registration fee, so individuals. But perhaps from our board chair, a question for more information.
Would that, I would ask the board if they would,
That's the will of the board.
concur if that's something that they might have more questions about. But I'm just a little.
Trustee Waters?
I'm a little bothered too, Bev, because transparency could have been there. You know how much they're going to make from it, and they didn't want to share it. So again, how much are they making? Because it could be a lot cheaper if that's what people want to do, rather than just pay $3,000, which seems like a lot of money, and we don't even know what you're getting for it. So transparency would be nice.
So can I just speak to what I heard? So it's not 10 months, to my understanding, it's 10 modules within a certificate program. The cost is $3,000 with a partnership with the University of Calgary. Is it the will of the board for some communication to come as brought forward from the board chair to receive more information with regards to this accreditation program and concerns?
Question?
Yes.
Sober comment. I did see on the weekend, I looked it up and I don't see it now, but it did actually list all the modules and stuff. I'd be willing to let it roll out and see what happens. I don't know that it impacts us. If they're looking to make money on it, well, that's a good thing. If people don't sign up for it, then that's on them.
There was also, they also stated that there was 30 openings.
Yes, that's right.
So 30 times 3,000 would be the revenue.
I would support the will of the board on this, so if there's interest in finding out more, then I'm for that.
Okay. So I have a couple questions. Trustee Waters?
I'm a little worried about how much money they make, Kathy, because it should go, if it's affordable to the trustees or not, right? $3,000 is a lot of money. So I would hope that they would think about this and can make it more affordable and more profitable. That's my only issue.
Trustee Gould?
I would just say what the point of our question would be. If we don't feel like we're wanting to take it, or we're not doing our individual research to find out what that module is about, then I would say, why are we trying to find out, and who cares what they charge in a sense? I mean, on a certain level, right? So we say, yes, we've got substantive and interesting questions about it because we're interested in it, or we say, fine, let other people take it and whatever.
Thank you. Trustee McCullough?
My comment was around the same as Trustee Gould. I appreciate the want for more information, but what are we gonna do with that afterwards? We already voted on what our payment is gonna be, what the budget is going to be. I think that would be something to keep in our vessels of information, that when the budget comes around, if there's a line item for this, or we find out that they lost money because of that, absolutely, but the die has been cast. They've already set this, they already said what it's gonna be. I'm not interested in more information, because I don't feel that we can do anything with whatever the information's going to be.
Thank you very much. I've added myself to the speakers list. I agree with regards to this, but I do have fear surrounding this, and my fear stems from creating or going into the equity piece. So is there going to be a conversation later on that you can't hold an executive position with ASBA, because this is an ASBA certificate program? So are they pigeonholing themselves to, well, you can't be this if you don't have the certificate, right? And as well, what are we looking at going into future elections with regards to the equity piece? $3,000 is a lot of money. And is it then unfair for those that can afford a certificate program that is offered to trustees and those that can't, right? And that's where my fear is. I think when you're part of an association, when they create a certificate program, there needs to be some boundaries and specifics with regards to what the intention is moving forward. So that's just, I think we should see how it plays out. But yeah, anyways, Trustee Waters.
The fear is like, as you just stated, we don't know really what's going to be all involved. And if it does fail, then who's picking up the pieces? Right? I don't want them to come back and say, well, no, we had this going and it didn't work, but now we're gonna ask you money to pay for it, or at least to get us out of debt. So I think to get as much information as we can, so we are prepared to understand exactly what they're doing. Because it's going to create a whole bunch of questions without asking them anything.
Trustee Manning?
So trustee professional development has always been a part of both PSBA and ASBA. And if this is under the sort of guidelines of trustee professional development, hallelujah, but it should be free. I mean, it's unfair to make it cost $3,000 and then attach a certificate to it. That's just not right in my mind. You should be able to become a trustee by putting your name on the ballot and having enough people vote for you, period. That's all it should take. And when you get into these professional organizations, you are able to take part in the professional development that is offered. I have found these professional development sessions invaluable. They're incredible. They're very, very good. But I don't want to pay $3,000, and I think it's prohibitive for other people to have to pay $3,000, and it's not fair, and it's not right in my mind when we're talking about local governance.
Thank you very much. Trustee Summers.
Just a quick comment. I think we're speaking more to is ASBA a non-for-profit? Why are they making a profit? And the structure around that. More than this specific thing, it's the money piece with ASBA. So I wonder if the question should be specific to that, or tell us more about what you're doing with the profit. Does that go back into reducing our costs? That kind of idea. But I hear what you have to say, so there's worries that I didn't even think about, and I would like to be included as well.
What is the will of the board moving forward with regards to this conversation, Trustee Manning?
So if I could have a will as a tiny step, and if the majority of trustees are in favor, a tiny step would be to ask our board chair to reach out to the president of ASBA and perhaps just have a conversation with her about the lead up to it, and maybe that information could come back to us in the fall at our first meeting, and we could maybe decide where to go from there. There is a fall general meeting of ASBA, which we could probably ask more questions around it. So perhaps just a conversation between our board chair and the ASBA president, if that's okay, if that's what the majority of.
Thank you very much for that suggestion. Can I see a show of hands of those in favor of the board chair having a conversation with the president, Marilyn Dennis, prior to fall to bring information back with regards to the accreditation certificate that is being offered by ASBA?
Put a half an elbow up.
Okay, so I will be reaching out, or whoever the board chair is will be reaching out to President Marilyn Dennis to obtain more information with regards to the certificate program being offered in partnership with the University of Calgary.
And could I add to my report that Minister LaGrange addressed trustees and took questions.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much for that report as information. We will move on in our agenda. PSBA report, Trustee McCauley.
Thank you. Along with ASBA Spring General Meeting, PSBAA also had their Spring General Meeting here in Red Deer. Most of us were able to attend in person, and those that didn't attend in person were able to attend just through conversations because it wasn't online. There was much discussion around that, if that's something that you should do a hybrid or not. It started off Thursday with the president's reception and plate of dinner and conversation with Jennifer Tupper, the Dean of Education of the University of Alberta. Friday was a full day with speakers, and Saturday was a half day, wasn't it? It was a full day as well, wasn't it?
Yes, full day.
It's full day as well, sorry. Those days just kind of blur in together sometimes. We also had Minister LaGrange speak at the PSBAA, but it was just a talk without questions, but she graciously took questions at ASBA if there was anything that needed to be addressed. The speakers and their topics were very informative. PSBAA is doing a wonderful job at keeping their boards that are involved happy to be involved, and they are doing a lot of work to try to get other boards part of their family of PSBAA. So any questions or anything that I missed on the report, if anybody else would like to add, otherwise I submit it.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
That's good. We'll do that.
Is that how I should end?
Thank you very much for that report from PSBA as information, Trustee McCauley. 10.10, Superintendent's Report, Superintendent Erickson.
Yeah, you have a list of a number of activities that I was involved in over the past month. Couple of glaring ones that didn't make the list. Graduations at both Hunting Hills High School and Lindsay Thurber High School. Both fantastic events to celebrate the culmination of a K-12 education for all of those graduates. Both schools did a fantastic job celebrating the accomplishment of all those students. It was great to see, as well as participating in the PSBA and ASBA from Thursday and over the weekend. So lots of great learning happened there. More so speaking to the next few weeks as we wrap up a school year, I'm very much looking forward to going around to every one of our schools and personally acknowledging and recognizing each of our retirees and being able to go spend some time in the schools before the end of June. It's something that over the past couple of years, unfortunately, I haven't been out into the schools as much due to COVID and other things that have been happening. So I'm very much looking forward to having a presence in our buildings and really thanking all the individuals within those buildings for all the work that they do each and every day.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Erickson. Ta-da. Ta-da. All right. 10.11 board chairs reports. I have nothing to report, so that is our agenda, and we will move into celebrations. I believe I went this way last time, so I'm gonna go this way this go around. I would ask all trustees and senior administration to provide one celebration over the last month. Trustee Summers.
Thank you. It's good you said that, because, you know, I could have taken them all, but I had the great pleasure to participate in Lindsay Thurber's graduation, and their FNMI small celebration. It was fantastic. Being on stage and congratulating all those grads personally meant the world to me. It solidified why I am here. So I took that to heart, and I congratulate them again and congratulate all the grads of Bridge Republic. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Vice Chair Peacock.
I want to express my appreciation to the staff last 2+ years, and we don't know what September will look like. We can only hope that we continue to improve, but we don't know. And it has been just an incredibly challenging year for everyone, and our staff, I know, really felt the weight of dealing with COVID and the pressures of in school, out of school, and trying to make sure that their students did not miss out on what they should know. And I just think it's been a tremendously challenging time, and I'm sure on behalf of the whole board, you know, we really express our greatest appreciation and frankly admiration for them doing all that they've done. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Trustee Manning.
Yeah, so the one item is a little bit of a gray area for me right at the moment, because I already acknowledged the students
Bonus.
for the band. It was a fabulous concert, and it just feeds your soul to listen to those kids play. But there's a couple of other things that I just wanted to mention. And the first is I would like to acknowledge our senior administration. Chad, you have steadied the boat over and over and over and over again, and you and your team have done a fabulous job, and I would ask that you pass my thanks along to them and the board's thanks. It's been, you know, we've all acknowledged the difficult time that it's been, but I just can't say thank you enough. That's not enough, but at this point, it's all we can offer. That and cake. The other people that I would like to acknowledge is the trustees around the table. As difficult as it is to be an administrator or just live in this environment, politics has been an incredibly challenging time, incredibly challenging. And in the middle of all that, we had a few brave souls who decided to put their name forward. And I acknowledge them, and I want to thank you for taking the time and the energy to try to do your best to learn and to represent your community. It is incredibly valuable work. It is work that is often comes without thanks, but comes with a great deal of criticism. And so Jim and Matt and Angela especially, thank you for coming to the table and bringing your thoughts and ideas. The rest of us have been here for a little while, but I want to thank them as well. We work hard to come together. We tackle difficult issues. It's a challenge, but I think we're all up to it. Together we can do it. Yes, and. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Associate Superintendent Eberts.
Earlier this year, or 2 different times, we've lost a couple people from my department. Of course, Dave Lorenzen left us for CBE, and Don Paul retired after many, many years with Red Deer Public Schools. And it took a while to replace those 2 people because they were very, very large shoes to fill. But as of this week, all my people are back in place. Crystal Pell from ECU filled Don's position, and a gentleman named Jason Fleming filled our Dave Lorenz's position. Both of them are fantastic. So it was a little bit of a relief because
we're doing a lot of double duty for a while, so that was my celebration this month.
Thank you so very much. Corporate Treasurer Colin Crane.
I guess I can acknowledge Scott Humphrey. He's our transportation coordinator, so he kind of quietly works away in his office, moving our students to and from school and making sure that everyone's safe. And even in the summer, he makes sure that the students get picked up. Every single student gets picked up to go to reading college. So it's amazing the work that he does, and we don't really care much for him. He just works away. So acknowledge that.
Thank you so very much. Deputy Superintendent Dan Lauer.
I'd just like to celebrate that I had the privilege of accompanying our Director of International Student Program to Europe, specifically to Copenhagen, to help brag about our district and attract agents to want to send their kids from their countries and their towns to our school. And it's really cool to get there, and it's kind of like speed dating. There was 20 boards from across Canada with 20 agents from 7 different countries. You had half an hour, and you just have to sell. And just getting to highlight why they should send their kids to us just helps reaffirm the excellent school district we have, and the fact that we're able to compete against Vancouver's and Toronto's and Quebec cities, and we get more applications we can handle. It's pretty cool. But it speaks to the excellent school district that we have. So this is an excellent opportunity.
Thank you so very much. Trustee Waters.
I had the opportunity to help Diane at Hunting Hills. Two gentlemen. One was from the government, Alberta government, and the other one was from actually China, and they're both to do with international students. And so we got to go around and see the Mandarin Chinese, and then they said, "Would you mind taking them on a tour for an hour?" And I said, "Sure." So we went to all the CTSs, and they just couldn't believe what we offer besides what they saw. So it was really, really something to see, and they'd like to come back. I don't know if I can tour them again, but they'd like to come back.
Thank you so very much. Trustee Gould.
I'm gonna try not to cheat, but I'm gonna sort of pretend that Bev didn't cheat. And so I'm gonna take her not cheating as a way to sort of say 2 little tiny things. One is today, I got the opportunity to speak at Lindsay Thurber Composite High School for their Pride celebration, and it was really exciting to have that kind of open, supportive environment and say some things. So I say great, and thanks for that opportunity. The other thing was, a week or so ago, I went to a couple of choir rehearsals at Lindsay Thurber, and it was terrific to be back in a rehearsal hall and start to have some interaction with the kids, because I feel that's where the true stuff is, even though this is true, of course. But for me, coming back from that face-to-face with the young people that I worked with all the years, that felt really good. And I learned about a compliment sandwich, which I think is fantastic. So let's say we finish a piece of music or an exercise, and the teacher says, "Okay, compliment sandwich." And so the first person says something good about what happened in the room, that rehearsal, that whatever. And then the middle piece, let's say with the choir, they go to the choir member and say, "Okay, the middle piece, what came up that you might want to work with," right? So what's kind of like the mustard or the vinegar in the middle of that sandwich, although it's always, you know, a good, positive, critical kind of analysis. And then the last piece is a compliment. So you have this compliment, maybe some work to do, and then compliment. I thought compliment sandwich, tasty. So thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Thank you so very much, Trustee McCullough.
My celebration is my admiration and gratefulness to all the schools and students and staff and parents and community members that are participating in Pride Month in Red Deer. Those individuals that came to our first flag raising, those individuals that worked hard with events that go on in their schools, events that go on in their other community roles, and I am so optimistic at the conversations that are going to come out of the events that are happening this month. There are still, unfortunately, some negative comments that come, and it just shows me that there needs to be more education around what Pride is. And if you want to ask why there isn't a straight week, you can ask that, and we will have that conversation. And that's what I like about this, is the information that can happen and the information that can be shared, and how one day this will just be. It'll just be part of our everyday life, it'll just be part of our everyday existence, and it'll just be. So that is my celebration.
Thank you so very much, Superintendent Erickson.
Yeah, I'd like to celebrate our FNMI Learning Services Department. Last Wednesday, I was able to take part in the Indigenous Culture Camp that our Learning Services Department was a collaborative part of planning over June 1st and June 2nd for educators across central Alberta. Just a fantastic couple of days. I was able to attend on June 1st, and just incredible work and just great collaborative work that was done with Red Deer Polytechnic and a number of other partners. It was exceptional. And then today they were a vital part of a teepee raising at Normandeau School. And once again, the education component that they provided for the grade 4 students, along with all of the other adults, it was exceptional. And I can't say enough about our Learning Services Department. They just knocked it out of the park yet again.
Thank you so very much, Superintendent Erickson. So I also want to just add on that a little bit. There was also a teepee raising ceremony or unveiling at Don Campbell this afternoon. Unfortunately, we are in our meeting, not so unfortunate, but we are unable to attend Don Campbell for their unveiling. And the education that our FNMI services provide. So the teepee at Normandeau is a Cree teepee. And the teepee that is being unveiled at Don Campbell is a Blackfoot teepee. And the differences that were explained to me as a trustee today are so valuable, and the awareness and education that is being offered to our students. Our FNMI Learning Services is fantastic, so kudos. And because I'm the last one to go, I'm really gonna cheat and go way all out there. So I'm going for more than one. Would like to congratulate and celebrate Trustee Gould. Today you did an absolutely remarkable job speaking as a panelist at Lindsay Thurber with regards to their Pride event, so thank you very much. It was good. You brought me to tears, as did the other panelists that spoke. When I go into celebrations, I usually have a list of things that I'm going to touch on. This is our last board meeting for the school year. And as every trustee and senior admin, I was like, okay, well, that's been parents, staff, and all the amazing things that we have done. I would like to celebrate our students. Wholeheartedly in my heart, I know that every single person in this room, trustee, senior admin, parent, ATA president, we are all here because we care about students. Sometimes we may not always agree with how we ideologically or how we're going to get there, but I know wholeheartedly we care about students. And I think we need to celebrate how remarkable of a job they did this entire school year. The last 2 years have been extremely difficult. We all know that. The uncertainty, the fear of not knowing whether you're going to be in school one day and out the next, and what's happening next week. Our students, if we can learn anything from our students, it is how strong, brave, and resilient they have been throughout this last year and the previous years. They are absolutely remarkable. I think we need to celebrate them, and I know as a school board and school division, we are so very proud. So that is what I would like to celebrate. With that, I would look for a motion to go back into private. Trustee Waters, all those in favor? So